Good morning to our viewers on the West Coast and good evening to our viewers in Tehran. I'm Nick Kosar in Washington, D.C., and you are watching Iranistas. Today, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei attended the graduation ceremony for cadets and Revolutionary Guards training from the Imam Hossein University. During the ceremony, Khamenei emphasized that the prevailing security and calm in the country in a chaotic region is a source of pride for the Islamic regime. Khamenei strongly urged the presidential candidates to firmly announce their position on economic issues and people's income and jobs as a priority. Khamenei added, "National security is extremely important, and the honorable candidates should be vigilant not to provoke ideological, geographical, linguistic, and ethnic misconduct through error detection and not to fall into the path of the enemy's crude plans, because if anyone acts against national security, they will face a severe blow." Earlier today, I had a discussion with Banafsheh Zand on what's happening on the ground in Iran on the campaign trail.
It seems to me that these days the campaign situation has become extra exciting in that the candidates, the main two candidates, let's say, Raisi and Rouhani, have begun to attack each other as the days drawing up to the actual elections draws near.
Rouhani seems a little bit worried about the outcome of the election, and he is also trying to say things that resonate with people that are non-Islamic, if you will, and are not supporters of the regime. And he is always saying things that do not match with his own specific record.
I think the problem is that Rouhani's own record is not exactly spotless. He has been attacking Raisi, who was one of the big prosecutors who has the blood of the famous 1988 massacre of the Mujahideen Khalq, or the MEK, on his hands, and that has become a kind of a stick with which Rouhani has been beating him with. So what are the specific accusations that Rouhani has been making against Raisi?
Rouhani is not calling Raisi's name, he's not mentioning Raisi's name, but he's referring to the 1988 executions or mass executions in the summer of 88, when the Iran-Iraq war was getting to an end, and there was a big operation called the Mirsad operation, and after that the judiciary and the Ministry of Intelligence were involved in executing more than 4,000 prisoners.
And those were prisoners that were members of the Mujahideen Khalq, or what we know as the MEK.
It was mostly the MEK prisoners, but a few hundred communist prisoners were also killed. One of the prosecutors on the death committee was Mr. Ebrahim Raisi, who's now running for president, but there are other names on that list of members of the death committee that are very close to Rouhani.
Since Rouhani never mentioned a word back in 1988 about the horrific massacre of the members of the Mujahideen and the communists, do you think he would have been against them?
Based on Rouhani's record from the beginning of the revolution, I think we have to assume the opposite. Because let's say in 1980, when the army officers and members of the Air Force were trying to overthrow the regime through a coup d'etat, he was one of the people asking for their execution. That means he actually sought the execution of the officers, or if you will, the traitor officers.
You're talking about the operation that is referred to as the Noje operation, correct?
Absolutely. The pilots and officers of the Noje air base near Hamadan were planning a coup against the regime. One of the politicians who was actually for their executions was Rouhani. And if you consider and if the regime considers members of the Mujahideen Khalq as traitors to the regime and the country, Rouhani, based on that philosophy, would have been one of the people that was for the execution of these individuals.
Since his own tenure, since his own presidency in 2013, we have seen the number of executions in Iran increase dramatically. And in fact, it turns out that statistics that have been given by various human rights organizations claims that Iran per capita is in fact the number one executioner, more so than China.
Absolutely. One big thing is that the government usually claims that it has nothing to do with the executions, and there is a separation of judiciary and the government. It is the government that it's supporting whatever the judiciary is doing by funding it. And the bigger problem is that when there is a case against the Islamic Republic of Iran, let's say in the Human Rights Commission, in the UN or anywhere, it's the government that sends its representatives to defend whatever is happening inside the country, either by the government or by the judiciary. So there is a partnership.
At one point in the early days of the revolution, I recall that Ayatollah Khamenei had specified that the Revolutionary Guards had no right to be involved in the issues of politics. And now here we are 30-something years later, and the Revolutionary Guards are basically the ones who are warning the political figures, if you were, to that they are the ones who are not permitted to get involved or offer opinion about the military or the Revolutionary Guards, if you were. So, what changed? Do you think? What is the what can we say is the reasoning behind this incredible shift of power and the fact that the Revolutionary Guards have self-elevated to the point where they are able to actually make that kind of a threat?
That's true. In the 1980s, Ayatollah Khamenei banned members of the military to enter any political game, and if they wanted to, let's say, run for office, they had to retire from the army or the IRGC. And this was also an important fact, mainly in the 1990s and the 2000s. But now you see that the Revolutionary Guards are so powerful that they actually dictate their will to the candidates and say that if anyone wants to talk about politics, it's okay. But if you want to talk about the military and our operations, you have no permission to talk about it during your debates. And that shows that Ayatollah Khamenei has given them such power and leverage that the candidates are a little bit wary of even attacking the military that has somehow even ruined the economy and the natural resources of the country with all their operations in building dams or interbasin water transfer projects or other projects that are harmful to the nation.
Do you think that a Raisi presidency would then be more attractive, let's say, to the Revolutionary Guards?
It seems so. Although they haven't felt any harsh blows from the Rouhani government, but it seems that they do not like that the government budget is being shared with other parties. They want the whole treasure, and they don't want to share it. So it's a little bit hard for them to see that, let's say, the reformists or the classic conservatives are taking a share of the cake out of the whole budget. But if Raisi actually wins the election, there's a bigger chance for IRGC to have bigger contracts both with the regime and also with where Raisi works right now. He's in charge of the funds of Astan Quds Razavi.
We know that the incredible amounts of money that it intakes, and supposedly they don't pay tax. Raisi has just admitted to the fact that the Astan Quds Razavi Foundation does not pay tax.
That's true, and recently Hassan Rouhani attacked Raisi, of course without naming him, as someone who does not pay his own taxes. And it meant his foundation, and also the judiciary doesn't pay much taxes, and Mr. Raisi has been one of the most powerful people in Iran's judiciary for a few decades. Of course, Mr. Rouhani knows the reason that first Ayatollah Khamenei said that religious foundations like Astan Quds do not have to pay taxes, but Rouhani does not mention a lot of things and just gives a lot of half-truths, but he knows how the system works and he has had no problems with them until now.
تا این آن سعود جمع نکنید، تا رژیم صهیونیستی رو در 25 سال آینده وسطش نگذیم به هم، تا آمریکا رو تبدیل به جمهوری اسلامی نکنیم، خاک سفید رو بکنیم حسینیه، دست از سر اینا بر نمی‌داریم. در خداگرایی سازوکا رو بگید. عزیز جوان، برادر عزیز، این نکته رو داشته باش. اونایی که میرن تو راهی که قاسم سلیمانی فرماندهی میکنه میرن شهید میشن، اونا از خداگرایی هیچ چیزی نگیرن. این جریان حزب کارگزاران، اینا دنیا براشون مهمه. یه تخت کنی میترسن. اینا توشون یه شهید وجود نداره. لذا هی مدام بر نگردید سراغ دولت احمدی نژاد. دولت احمدی نژاد مهمترین ویژگیش این بود که این مملکت رو در حوزه این سازوکارا جلو برد. اگر از تحریم‌ها فشاری آمد، بعضی از ارکان اصلاح طلب بلند شدن رفتن اونجا گفتن تحریم‌ها رو گسترده کنید. این که اسناد مدارکش موجوده دیگه دوست عزیز. اصلاحاتیان مرد عشق می‌بازن با آمریکایی رو میگن. اما شما جوان عزیز این سوال رو به دوستات پاسخ بده. اون سوال اینه: چرا وقتی ترامپ اومد سر کار 30 تا از اصلاح طلبا نامه زدن بهش گفتن به ایران حمله کن و فشار بیار؟ آیا اینایی که نامه زدن 30 نفر مثل باطلی و کی اینا بچه‌های انقلابی و اصولگرا بودن، بسیجی بودن، یا عوامل آقای مصطفی تاج‌زاده در فتنه سال 78 بودن؟ اینه. لذا جریان اصلاحات وقتی شیرین عبادیش میره اونجا جایزه نوبل میگیره، بلند میشه میگه به فرانسه و به آمریکا میگه ایران رو تحریم کن، وقتی باطلی و دیگران هم فکرانه آقای خاتمی و آقای که بلند میشن میرن نامه میزنن 3 ماه پیش به ترامپ میگن به ایران حمله کن و تحریم اقتصادی کن. عزیز من، اصلاحات اصلاحات این 300 نفری هم که تو VOA و BBC فارسی هستن، اصلاحات اونیه که آقای سروشی که اساس دین رو میبره زیر سوال میگه در واقع پیامبر خواب دیده شده قرآن. اصلاحات این جریان مبانی فکری اصلاحات که از اساس با شهید و شهادت مشکل داره، با دفاع از حرم مشکل داره. خودتون شما جوانان احساساتی آینده‌تون رو فدای لیبرال ها نکنید. امام فرمود تا من زنده هستم نخواهم گذاشت مملکت دست لیبرال ها بیفته. تا ما زنده هستیم نمیذاریم لیبرال ها حواستون باشه. این دوست عزیز. لذا هی ملام خاتمی احمدی نژاد نکنید. خاتمی، میرحسین موسوی و کروبی در آینده نه چندان دور انشاءالله محاکمه و اعدام میشوند به خاطر